Chosen 1. This lonely road is sacred.
People tied to darkness rarely stay when your light becomes honest. That truth did not first arrive in a church, a prayer journal, or some dramatic revelation under thunder-colored skies. It arrived in the quiet click of a new apartment door closing behind you in a city that did not know your name. One suitcase by the wall. A mattress still wrapped in plastic. Streetlight leaking through unfamiliar blinds. And a silence so complete it almost felt like a voice. At first you called it loneliness. But what if it was actually the first room your real self had ever been given? Because sometimes the sacred road does not begin with certainty. It begins when everything familiar stops speaking at once. The old neighborhood no longer surrounds you. The people who once filled every empty hour are now reduced to profile pictures and delayed replies. The routines that once kept you numb are gone. And in that strange stillness, something startling begins. You hear yourself. Not the version of you that was edited for family comfort. Not the version that stayed agreeable to keep relationships intact. Not the version that dimmed its truth so nobody else had to confront their own shadows. The honest self. That is why some people disappeared the moment you chose this move. It was never just geography. It was exposure. Distance has a way of revealing what closeness once concealed. Some bonds were built on convenience, not alignment. Some affection survived only while you remained accessible, predictable, and emotionally available on demand. The moment your life began to widen, the hidden contracts became visible. You stopped being easy to reach. You stopped being easy to influence. You stopped orbiting worlds that required your confusion. And suddenly, the people who once insisted they loved you became strangely absent. This is not abandonment. This is filtration. A city can become a mirror faster than any sermon ever could. Every morning you wake up in a place where no one remembers your old mistakes. No one expects your former role. No one pressures you to continue the script they wrote for you years ago. There is grief in that. Let's tell the truth. Living alone in a new city is not cinematic every day. Sometimes it is fluorescent grocery aisles at 9:40 staring too long at two brands of rice because there is no one to casually ask which one tastes better. Sometimes it is carrying bags upstairs by yourself and realizing there is nobody waiting inside. Sometimes it is hearing laughter from another apartment and feeling the ache of being unchosen by a place that has not yet learned your frequency. Sometimes the hardest part is not being alone. It is discovering how much of your previous life was noise designed to keep you from meeting yourself. This is the sacred part no one talks about. The lonely road is not empty. It is uncluttered. And what feels like loss is often the first clean space your soul has had in years. A city at night teaches this gently. You walk streets that do not carry your history, cafes where no one knows what broke you, parks where your name means nothing yet, train stations full of strangers who owe you no assumptions. At first this feels terrifying. Then one evening it becomes holy. Because anonymity can be a form of mercy. For the first time, you are not managing anyone's memory of you. You are simply becoming. The chosen one often mistakes sacred solitude for punishment because the world has trained you to measure worth by constant social proof. If people are around, you must be valuable. If messages are frequent, you must be loved. If invitations keep coming, your life must be meaningful. But this season is teaching a deeper arithmetic. Presence is not proof. Noise is not connection. Company is not intimacy. Sometimes the crowd was the camouflage. The deeper journey begins when the camouflage falls away. There was a reason this move happened now. Not just because of career. Not just because the old city became too small. Not just because something in your chest kept whispering, leave before you disappear inside the familiar. This move was a spiritual relocation. The external city changed because the internal architecture was changing first. You were not meant to keep growing in rooms built around your former fears. A seed cannot resent the cracking of its shell. And that is the metaphor of this season, the lantern in the fog. Not a blazing spotlight. Not instant clarity. A lantern. Just enough light for the next 10 steps. Living alone in a new city feels exactly like walking through fog with a lantern. You do not get the whole map. You get enough truth for the next decision. Take this street. Say yes to this class. Sit in this cafe. Call that person back. Do not return to that old emotional pattern. Go home early tonight. Trust your unease. Stay with your peace. This is self-discovery in its truest form. Not a slogan. Not aesthetic journaling. Not pretending to be healed because your apartment looks minimal and calm. Real self-discovery is noticing what surfaces when nobody is there to distract you from yourself. Your fears become louder first. That is normal. The first nights alone can feel like old memories staging a comeback tour. The betrayal you thought you had outgrown. The family words that still echo. The version of yourself that always believed being left alone meant being unwanted. A new city does not erase these voices. It amplifies them. Not to torment you. To let you finally answer them. And this is where the sacred road bends into revelation. You begin learning the difference between solitude and abandonment. Abandonment says, no one stayed because you were not enough. Solitude whispers, the room cleared so you could become enough for yourself. That difference changes everything. One evening after another long day of pretending to be brave in unfamiliar places, you come home and sit on the floor because the couch still has not arrived. The city hums outside like distant electricity. And in the middle of that ordinary moment, something honest rises. You realize how much of your previous identity was stitched together by proximity. You were the reliable friend because they were nearby. The emotional caretaker because their chaos was accessible. The people pleaser because the audience was always close enough to react. Now the stage is gone. And for a moment, you do not know who you are without the performance.
Good.
That confusion is not failure. It is detox. The soul shakes when the false self loses its audience. Stay there. Because beneath that discomfort is the first unborrowed version of you. This city is teaching you sacred practical lessons through ordinary rituals. Learning to cook for one without making your life feel small. Learning to walk alone at sunset and not narrate your worth through who is beside you. Learning that weekends can become ceremonies instead of emotional traps. Here is the practical transformation lesson hidden in this road. Build belonging through rhythm before you seek it through people. This is how loneliness turns into self-trust. Create morning anchors. The same tea. The same corner by the window. A notebook. A walk before screens. Let your days recognize you before the city does. Because the soul stabilizes through repetition. When external familiarity is gone, inner ritual becomes home. That is how this sacred loneliness starts changing shape. One day, you realize the silence no longer feels sharp. It feels spacious. The apartment that once echoed now holds your breath gently. The empty chair across the room no longer symbolizes absence. It becomes possibility. You begin to notice your own preferences with startling intimacy. What music you actually like when nobody else is choosing. What time your body wants to sleep. What thoughts arrive when your mind is not occupied by survival-level social management. What dreams return when exhaustion is no longer your default language. This is self-discovery, not as performance, but as reunion. And yes, there are hard nights. Nights when the city rains and every streetlight turns the pavement into memory. Nights when you wonder if you made a mistake. Nights when your phone stays still and your heart tries to translate silence into rejection. Do not trust the theology of late-night fear. Night magnifies unfinished stories. Morning restores proportion. There are seasons where the soul needs fewer voices, so it can stop confusing panic with intuition. This city is not isolating you. It is refining your signal. The people who drifted away after your move were often connected to versions of you that required shrinking. They knew how to love your availability. They did not know how to honor your evolution. That is why the lonely road feels sacred. It is not merely distance from people. It is distance from distortion. Every solo walk, every meal eaten in your own company, every small decision made without consensus is rewiring your sense of authority. You are learning to trust your own witness. That matters more than most people realize. Because the deepest loneliness many chosen ones experience is not physical solitude. It is self-betrayal. Years of overriding intuition. Years of saying yes while your spirit said no. Years of staying in cities, relationships, and roles that no longer reflected your becoming. Now in this new place, the healing is almost embarrassingly simple. A lamp in the corner. Rain on the glass. A meal you made badly but made anyway. A weekend morning that belongs entirely to your own pacing. The soul does not always heal through grand revelation. Sometimes it heals by discovering it is safe to exist without witness. And then comes the unexpected miracle. You stop needing every silence explained. You stop chasing people who vanished when your honesty appeared. You stop romanticizing the old city simply because it was familiar. You begin to understand that some places were comfortable because they kept your deeper self asleep. This new city asks more of you. Presence. Attention. Choice. And in return it gives something rare. A chance to meet yourself without interference. The sacred loneliness of this road is not meant to last forever in its current form. This is important. This is not a message about glorifying isolation. This is about consecrating the season before alignment. The people meant for your next life often arrive after you have learned how not to abandon yourself to keep them. So yes, community will come. Friendships rooted in resonance, not convenience. Love that does not fear your expansion. Conversations that nourish rather than consume. But first, this holy apprenticeship with your own company. Because if belonging arrives before self-recognition, you will mistake attachment for destiny. The city is training your discernment. Notice who makes your nervous system soften. Notice which places increase clarity. Notice which invitations leave residue. Notice how your body responds to certain streets, rooms, and voices. Self-discovery is often body knowledge catching up to spiritual truth. Your light became honest. That is why the road narrowed. That is why some hands let go. That is why this apartment, this skyline, this solitude, this strange and beautiful in-between became necessary. The lonely road is sacred because it removes counterfeit echoes. It teaches you how your own soul sounds in an empty room. And once you know that sound, no false belonging can seduce you the same way again. The chosen one is not chosen for applause. You are chosen for alignment. And alignment often begins in rooms where no one claps. So tonight, if you're in that apartment, that rented room, that studio with half-built furniture and too much silence, hear this clearly. Nothing is wrong. Your life is not behind. This city is not evidence of loss. It is a sanctuary of becoming. Every unfamiliar street is teaching courage. Every solo decision is strengthening identity. Every ache is exposing where you once outsourced your sense of self. The sacredness is not in the loneliness itself. It is in what loneliness reveals when you stop resisting it. Soon, the city that felt enormous will begin greeting you. The barista will remember your order. The park bench will become your thinking place. The bookstore aisle will start feeling like a friend. A few souls, the right souls, will slowly enter your orbit. But by then something greater will already have happened. You will no longer be waiting for others to make your life feel inhabited. You will have become at home within yourself. And that is the miracle hidden in this move. Not independence. Integrity. Not separation.
Recognition.
Not loneliness. Consecration. So speak these affirmations over your journey. I honor the silence that is teaching me who I am. I create home within myself wherever I go. I trust that sacred solitude is preparing aligned connection. And here is the blessing for your road. May every unfamiliar street become a corridor of revelation. May every lonely evening turn into deeper friendship with your own soul. May this city hold you gently while your true identity takes shape. May what left your life never be mistaken for what was meant for it. And may your honest light continue guiding you lantern-like through every fog until you arrive, not just somewhere new, but truly home. Amen.